I'm ChosenArchitect, and this is Project Architect 2. Now, last episode, we automated Archimeat. Yes, this giant pile of meat mass in front of me, which honestly was generated by crushing all of the mobs that you see inside the mechanical crafter behind me. Now, all of these mobs that are in here required a ton of work to actually get, but once we did our initial research inside of our research facility, this beautiful place right here, well, we now have the ability to make more of them and replicate them, but we still have to put them through the mechanical crafter if we want to automate them. Now, in doing so, we'll actually be producing a little bit of extra EMC every time this loop gets initiated. And this is going to be the introduction into our first chapter of the EMC duplication section, otherwise known as the EMC automation chapter. Now, to fully get this loop up and running, we're going to have to dive a little bit more into Create. And there's actually something that I want to do with Create, because what I don't want to do is I don't want to use water wheels, as this is going to get very old very quickly and you'd have no real control over this. I mean, you can gear ratio this and make it a little bit faster, but I actually want to use some of our power that we're generating to use that to then convert it into stress units. And so this leads me into a very, very special block. And that block is none other than the electric motor from Create Crafts and Additions. And this thing alone allows you to send power to it to create stress, and you can also adjust the rotation direction and speed. It's honestly kind of like a creative motor that uses power, where the creative motor, of course, does not use power. This right here does use power, quite a bit of power actually, but allows you to have that creative motor kind of access, allowing you to really scale up your builds and do just about anything you could ever dream of doing with Create from simply making this one item. Now, for some of the machines, we're going to actually need a rolling mill for this, so I've done some gear ratioing, and this is what I want to try to avoid. Now, I need it at first to kind of speed things up, but I'm just pulling from those water wheels down here. It's going into a regular cog, and then I just place a andesite casing on that to prevent it from interacting here, and allows you to get a really nice and compact gear ratioing. So essentially we're going from here, that is rotating this, which is then going to be attached to a larger cog, allowing us to speed up through these gears. You can also do the opposite of this to get it slower. But later on, like I said, I'm not even going to need to worry about this. I just need to get this rolling mill going pretty quick. So I can take, I think, regular iron on here, and I just need to hopper it in or shoot it in or whatever you want. Hoppers work just fine. And so I place a hopper on top like that, and then place my iron in, and that's going to start producing those rods that we're going to need. We're also going to need some other things for this that's going to require this mill, and that is going to be these wires. So we are going to need some copper sheets, and thankfully you can use the multi-servo press for most of these recipes. Now, when it comes to things, for example, like zinc, I still have to add these to the recipes for thermal. That is a pack dev thing I'm going to have to do on my end, but it should get added soon. Should get added soon for sure. But for right now, I am going to be doing them through the mechanical press. But yeah, you can just do these on the floor. I mean, and since we're not in the laboratory, yeah, I think this is perfectly acceptable. Now, this is a very temporary setup. Once I get some of these made, I'm probably not going to have to craft them again like this. So what I'm going to do is use some hoppers. So I have some hoppers placed on the face. Make sure you separate these out, because if a hopper is on top of another hopper, then the top contents will end up filling up the hopper below it until that hopper is, of course, filled up. So that's why I have these all separated like this. And what I need to do is I just need to get these ingredients placed in. So now I just need to get the last item in, and that is going to be the capacitor. And once this is done, all of this should form together and should place this in the barrel. So this is going to be very powerful early game. So here we go. We now have that, and now we have an electric motor. So this is pretty darn cool. Let's grab a gate, for example, and I can go ahead and get this started. So you can see the face. We have a power control on the back, and you can power it with a gate, for example, by placing that here. And then we can access this and increase the speed all the way up to like 256. And we notice that is now spinning at that rate, which is just absolutely ridiculous. I love this thing. And it's so compact. It's just a single block doing all of this. And so, yeah, I could speed this up now that we have one motor, and I can replace the one we had. Let's go ahead and place this here and utilize this motor. Might as well. Perfect. And we'll give it some power. That is going to start spinning, but we can, of course, take this up to 256. And just like that, we have ramped up the production. Now, I've turned on night vision for this part because I want to show how cool this is going to be to actually automate. So what I'm essentially going to do is I'm going to have these mobs in their correct order be sent into the crafter. And it's going to constantly be looping, and then the result, which is going to be the Archimeat, is going to be constantly sent back to be researched, aka turned into EMC. And it's going to be set up like this. Now, I want to be, of course, decorative with this and keep with the build. So I'm going to be using some of these cork vertical slabs, absolutely amazing blocks right here, and use this to cover up the sides of the crafter while also keeping it the same as this deep slate that is pretty much layered all throughout this area. And so we are going to have middle sections right here that are going to look like this. Now, the more I look at this, the more it would actually fit really well down in the bottom here. Oh, you know what? I think I'm going to be moving these. Oh yes, that is going to be perfect actually right down here. So this is ready to go. Now this is going to be an EMC link. So you might as well get that EMC link set up. And I think this does have a insertion limit. So we are going to have to go, I think, with the higher tiers. So this has 50 million. So we got to make sure this can accept up to that 50 million amount, which would, I think, be this one right here, right? Now, we are going to gain back our EMC fairly quickly. Right now, I just took that out, and that was quite a bit of EMC. But we'll get it back. We will for sure get it back. So let's go ahead and take our Archimeat. Now, I don't think we have to set this on the insertion rate, but it is now set and ready to go. Now, what we have to do is we have to send the items in. Now, there's an interesting way that I want to do this. You could use pipes, you can use all kinds of stuff, but I like to show off interesting parts of mods. So Industrial Foregoing, believe it or not, has these item transporters, and these are fairly simple to place and just use, and you don't have to configure anything. So let's go ahead and start using these things. I'm going to place in my EMC links right here, and these are going to just be the regular tier 1s. These should be fine for right now. If we have to upgrade them later on, we definitely can. I think this will allow us to pull the items out, even though there is, I believe, a transfer limit. We'll find out. We'll definitely find out. So, B, this one right here. Let's go ahead and take this out. We know that this is going to be in the top left-hand corner, so it is going to be this right here. And so I'm going to go ahead and set this, and let's just go ahead and test this out. The B has 2 million EMC, and we place this item here and right here. And then what we need to do is just click here, and that should pull the B out. And there we go. So that is ready to go. And that's how these work, right? So these essentially send the items directly into here with a lot of other cool things that you can do. For example, they do have a regulator mode, so you can like specify that you only want like one item to go into a chest, and all kinds of other cool features like filtering. And you can also accelerate them with the Industrial Foregoing acceleration cards. The other nice part is I fit right here into the space where all of these exist. So it does make getting into a nice tight space very easy. And there we go. So now I have all of them in there, and now it takes an initial investment in EMC to get this up and running, but essentially we just need to power this. And so I can actually hide my power behind this block, for example, and we can go ahead and get a cog in here on the side and use one of our electric motors that we have. Oh, this is too clean. It's too clean, too nice. Let's go ahead and do this. Put that in. And then back here, I just need to set my values. So we'll make this to go as fast as possible. Just like that. Rotation direction does not matter. And then we'll slap a gate on here. And as soon as I do this, this is going to start the craft. Or at least it should start the craft, I think. Is that not enough power? It's not rotating. So it might actually be overstressed. Let me check. We may have to crank that down. 256. So it has a high rotation speed, but I don't think... it might not have a high stress capacity, which might actually be a problem here. Oh boy, actually, I thought these would be able to spin this incredibly fast. I mean, it's a pretty small setup here. My gate is set up. That is providing power. And is it even rotating? That is something that I don't actually know. No, it's not rotating. That's actually odd. I'm a complete goofball. There was a redstone torch powering this block right here, and that's what actually was preventing this. Because believe it or not, this is actually part of the redstone room. So I didn't realize there was a redstone torch right underneath it. Like, this is the only reason it shouldn't be working. Okay, so now with that solved, like, this will definitely work. Okay, let's go ahead and crank this in, just like that, and we'll make sure to put that motor in, just like so. Crank that bad boy up. Bam. There we go. And it should rinse and repeat. And notice we are getting an EMC gain right there. It's saying plus 30 million. Of course, it's more than that. It's 50 million. But that's not our actual gain because we have to account for how much EMC is in all of these mobs. Now, all of these plushies combined cost us a total of 20 million EMC, which means we should have a net positive of 30 million EMC every operation here. Now, this alone is incredibly powerful, but I want to scale it up. I actually want one in each of these corridors here. So having at least 4 of these up and running probably isn't a hard thing to set up. Interesting. So after doing a little bit of testing, it looks like the EMC link, the regular one, will work. So I don't have to use this high tier one. I can just still stick with these basic EMC links. That's actually pretty nice. Now, of course, I can't leave all of these unsynchronized. So I have them all currently shut off. And notice they are spinning right now. So all of them should be spinning. I did remove the cog to get them kind of synchronized, but what I need to do is power them all at one go. So I want to keep them locked. So what I'm going to do is utilize this redstone link, and this is a fantastic block. So I'm going to power this block, which should power this on the back here. So if I break through here, that should get powered right here. So I'm going to put an EMC link. I'm going to label all of these with the Archimeat like this. And we need to put these in receive mode. So the main one, which is the one the lever's gonna be attached to, that one's in regular mode. But when we right click this or shift right click this with an empty hand, that puts us in receive mode whenever you see the little antenna pop up. So long as all these are linked, these will all act as wireless redstone, which is very, very handy, specifically for things like this, where there may be a little bit of redstone logic where I want to get things synced up. And the only way to do that is by turning machines on and off. And, well, that is what this is used for. So let me just make sure that is good to go. And of course, I'm locking these IDs. You just change the IDs here. And let's give this a test. So I'll put that one in the mode. So now I should be able to send this a signal. So right now it doesn't have a signal, but when I do, that should shut all of these off. You notice they are shut off right now. And then whenever I flip this lever, it should now turn them on. And there we go. Perfect. So that should synchronize everything. I have them all set up. They are all turned on. All of them are sending items. I just need to slap the cog back on here on every single one of these. And we have a nice automation set up for these that are also decorative. Oh, this is good. The EMC link being down here. Perfect. Now, once this is done, there we go. So now they should be synchronized. And they should all hopefully be crafting at the exact same time. Kind of, sort of. I think what I might have to do is break the setup. Let me turn these off real quick. So I might actually have to break the side that I had running initially. Like, notice these are right there at the that stage. Yeah, this is going to be a little bit weird, but what I'm going to have to do is I think shut off these after they finished a craft. And by doing that, it should reset all of these. Yep, I definitely have to do that. And notice they all pop off. And now they should be at their initial starting state. Okay, perfect. So a little bit of my OCD out of the way. Now when I toggle this, they should be 100% synchronized. Beautiful. And so now all I need to do is essentially cover them up like so. And these guys are looking pretty good. Look at that. You would never even know anything was going on, except for these massive holes that I've got to also fill. And this should be made pretty simple by utilizing a trowel here, which is going to randomize the placeable items in my hotbar. Very, very nice. And so all of this is going to get nice and cleaned up. Beautiful. So now with that done, I'm running into a little bit of a problem. So let me turn all of these on right here. And this is actually consuming my power. A lot more than I was expecting. Now, I only have 27,000 RF per tick at the moment to work with, which is not a lot. And I'm using, I would say 20,000 RF to run those motors in there. Just 4 motors. And I noticed this was actually dwindling and almost was completely gone when I took a look at it. So I think we should start working on getting some power up and running. But not only that, we're also going to need to think about some of our future items that are going to be required here. And one of those is the Ludocrite block. So there's two different power mods that I want to play with today, and that is going to be Powah, but I also need to get bigger reactors set up as well, because we're going to need to get the plutonium, and this comes from processing cyanide. And cyanide actually is a byproduct of running your bigger reactor. So yes, here we go. Now we can see the power actively draining, and that's something that I wanted to show, that I am losing power on my current cell. So now remember that hole that I wasn't actually using yet? Well, I've made it a much bigger hole, and well, that's because I thought about getting into bigger reactors, but then I remembered bigger reactors, while great, is not going to provide me with the power that I need at the moment. But I do want to mention that we are going to need bigger reactors down the road. And the reason is because we need to make a Ludocrite block. But the funny thing is, you don't actually have to build a bigger reactor, even though they are fun to build and a pretty good thing to use early game. And of course, it's in here because there's so many different options. You can use this early game. You can use any of the other power options early game. And I just added it in here for more options. And it's one of my favorite power mods. But just because I didn't use it in this playthrough doesn't mean it isn't viable. It is pretty darn cool, and you can produce some really cool reactors with it. I also think it's a really great decorative piece as well. But the reason why I say you don't have to get into it is because the Ludocrite block itself, you technically don't need. All you have to do is craft a cyanide dust, which is technically, cyanide is a byproduct of bigger reactors typically. But with this, you can actually just do the cyanide dust, just like so, by taking uranium dust and crafting it into it, and then putting it through a reprocessor. So the reprocessor, the cyanide reprocessor, is what will turn it into the plutonium, and that's how you can easily craft these items you can see right here. So it's definitely not too difficult to get this, and this is going to be needed whenever we get into the Architron block, which I am super excited to get, because once we get this, we unlock the ability to have a transmutation interface. Oh, which is going to be so good because we can link this directly to our AE system and access any of our learned items directly through it. Now, back to what I'm going to be doing with this hole. Yes, this deep, dark hole is actually going to contain power. And what I want to do is I want to use it to fill this with some Powah reactors. Now I want this room to be the center point. So this is actually where we're going to be doing the auto crafting for this energizing orb. And this is going to be auto crafts that are specifically related to keeping these reactors powered. So they are going to require a few things, right? They're going to require water, they're going to require redstone, and they're also going to require a coolant block and uranite. So, or uraninite. Uraninite needs to be crafted inside of energizing orb, and also its cooling block. And if we use the best cooling block from Powah, it is going to be the dry ice. So we are going to need blue ice that's being sent to this, or just filled in our terminal, our actual applied energetic system, because I want this to be handled with AE. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to use another wireless connector, and so this is going to allow me to make this a lot cleaner, I think. So let's go ahead and tap in here. I'm going to place this. Let's actually place it one block down from the main here, so that way I can run a cable. And so we'll have a wireless connector that is going to go right there. Beautiful. And then I'm going to right click this to store its location. And then we're going to go down here into the super bright room. Very, very nice. I'm going to place another one down here on the bottom, just like that. And then right click, and that is now linked to our system, and things should be working. Perfect. So now all I have to do is get a cable, and I just run a single cable here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do the same setup that I have over here for automating. Essentially, what it's going to do is this should automatically be able to collect the output of this from the top here and then send it into our pattern provider. So I'm going to craft a pattern provider. And as soon as this is done, I'm going to craft it down into this form like so and place that right here. And perfect. So now on our sender, actually we need a receiver module. Let's see, let's do modular routers. I think I have all of these set up on AutoCraft. So yeah, we'll need a regular puller. So that's going to pull the item in. And so we need to say, hey, pull from the bottom, pull from the downside. So that should automatically work. And then we need to send the item back out. And so this is actually going to be a sender MK2 or Mark II. There we go. So I'll get that ready to go. Perfect. So now our cinder, because we're flying, this is going to make this a little bit harder. So I have to place some sort of block. Unfortunately, I can't like hold down shift or anything like that. It has to be like this. And so now that should send back into this. And we don't have to define anything else. And we just need some upgrades, some speed upgrades on here. And that essentially allows this to auto send those ingredients for the recipes. And then I need to get these rods connected in like so. So I'm going to have some energizing rods. These are all going to be connected to this. Now I actually decided to go ahead and recess these a little bit. So these are actually pushed back, and you can see the little power gate that I have on the back here. So this should be ready to be set up. All I have to do is get some speed upgrades. So speed upgrades, let's actually craft more than that. And then I don't think we need really anything else, just making sure that these go pretty quick. And by the way, if you didn't know this, definitely set this to eco mode if you are playing on a server, because if you're not using this, then you might as well have that up. Honestly, I'm even setting them up to run in my single player world. And that'll essentially go, if it's been 5 seconds and nothing's actually processed, then it will only check if there's an item every 5 seconds. So now let's actually get the uraninite auto-crafted and ready to go. So I need to tell this, hey, we need to send this through the energizing orb. And you can see that 1 raw uraninite actually turns into 2 uraninite, which is actually really good. That's exactly what we want and the auto-craft that we want. So I'll put that in there, and that should have that automated. That'll be perfect. And then we just need dry ice. So dry ice is the only other thing that I think we're going to need that has to run through this operation, and that's just 2. And we want to make sure that this is set to either blocking mode or you have this set to lock crafting. Both of these will work in this case. Blocking mode I think might be a little bit faster, but I'm not quite sure. Now I actually do want to change the way this block looks, so the way it's not sticking out like a sore thumb. And because this should be able to take on the look of anything, I'm actually going to make it look like this wireless connector. And so when I put this in here, it's going to look like a powered wireless connector. Honestly, kind of keeping this looking the same. So I guess without further ado, we might as well try this out. And let's see if we can't auto craft some of these. Okay, so we are going to need this. A little bit of that. I will get that stored away. Here soon, we're going to have infinite access to this. So I'm not going to be as worried about it. But let's go ahead and get that set up. Let's do like 100 of them. And there it goes. So I notice right here, though, it is not pulling, it looks like. Oh, nope, there it goes. Yeah. So it is 100% working. So the item should be going to the buffer, and then it's sending it back out. It just takes a moment to kind of get started. But yeah, it's definitely automated and working. Now running from the back here, I am going to run a connector that is going to store 32 channels. So that way we can actually connect into our applied energistic system and get this fully automated. And I'm simply just using some facades to kind of hide the fact that this exists, but I did run it through the back here. So if I was to, for example, set 3 separate reactors here, I'm going to need 36 of any of the reactor blocks. Now I did go ahead and make some nitro reactors, so we can actually get our first reactor set up, and I'm going to place it in the wall right here. Now the cool part is it builds itself. Like that is a really nice part about this. And if you take a look at the power book, you can see how tall they are. So 1, 2, 3, 4 blocks tall typically. And like I said, it does build itself. So I can go ahead and just right out here, get a full sort of setup of how this is going to look. And so we know exactly what size we're going to need. Of course, you can vein mine and break this whole thing. All of these blocks, but 36 of them is what you're going to need. And I made the Niotic version because this is the one that doesn't require nether stars in its craft, because I do not have nether stars fully automated. So this was going to be pretty good. It does produce like, I believe 100,000 RF per tick. But anyways, 1, 2, 3, 4 tall. And that's the number that I need to know. Yes, it actually produces, yeah, max extraction is 100K. No, it produces 25,000 RF per tick on the just one tier 1, which is what it currently is. So yes, I just need to bring this back. I'm actually going to have this offset by 1. So it's going to go 3 blocks back like so. And you can see right here, I have access to this cable. And so what this will do is I should be able to connect to this from the sides of these reactors. So let's turn on some night vision so we can see a little bit better. And I'm going to go ahead and place this in. So if I place that right there, pulls the items directly out of my inventory. No need to fuss or worry about anything. It's just going to work. Oh, this is going to be perfect. And we have room right here for a bunch of these. And so there we go. So now we have this reactor in place. And we can pull power off of here with our gates, or I think I want to get into a new power mod in order to support this. But for right now, I think it would be best to go ahead and get this thing up and running. Now, something cool about this, we do need a water bucket, but we only need one water bucket. And with Applied Energistics, you can pull water buckets directly out. So by clicking in here with that water bucket, this is now filled and I don't have to worry about it anymore. I don't have to like constantly keep water pumped into this. Now to automate this, I just need an export bus, and this export bus is going to be set to those items that we're going to need. For example, Powah's uraninite. We also need the dry ice. We're going to need the uraninite, which is also in here. Where are you at? Right there. And then we're also going to need, let's see, redstone blocks. So this also is best with redstone blocks, and then a coal block. So a block of coal going in here too. So all of these are going to get exported, but we do need to make sure that we can auto craft these two items right here. And the way we do that is if we do not have it stored in our system right here, then it will go ahead and force an auto craft to take place. And when that happens, it should automatically send those items in here. So this is automatically going to start working. This is pretty slow. It's going to ramp up without acceleration cards. So we'll see that the uraninite is going to start going in, and that is once we start to actually need those items, it should force the autocraft to happen here. So now after putting some acceleration cards in here, this thing is rocking and rolling. And so now we have it fully ready to go, and you want to make sure you toggle on the auto mode. This is going to make sure that it automatically kind of saves resources if the power is not being used. So very, very nice. And now we are already producing 24,000 FE per tick, and all I need to do is just slap on a gate here on this red little dot. When it comes to these gates, we want to make sure that we are sending with the correct amount. For example, this is 50K. This is actually producing 24K or 25K, so that should be more than enough. And I think we can apply it right here, and that should pull out. I thought the little red dot is actually the power extraction point, but this actually doesn't connect to that. So hopefully that actually works. And you can also connect to the top of it. And yes, it does look like it is working. I can see it actively going down, which does mean that it is being consumed. So with it, I've essentially doubled my power because of our limited power capabilities, which means I should be able to now turn this back on, and we should be looking pretty good. But I still want to get more of these reactors up. And all I have to do is just rinse and repeat that same process here. And I'm able to do it on this side and this side. So I at least want to get a few more, and that'll bump us up to at least, I mean, we'll be pushing pretty close to 100,000 RF per tick, which I think will definitely get us through for a little bit longer. Now, just to make sure these do not go offline, I do want to use some EMC links, and these are going to be kind of interesting. I'm going to actually tap in to the top here. Let's grab a cable, and I'm going to run it off of the top of one of these. We have plenty of channels to play with. And this is kind of my jank room. So I'm going to place these right here. And I should be able to storage bus these. And so what this will allow me to do is it'll allow our system to know that we have access to these and to pull them out of here when needed. And to do that, we'll tap into this. Let's go ahead and like define these. For one, this will be uraninite. This one, it'll be coal blocks. And this one will be redstone. And then we'll have blue ice. So now that all those are assigned, we can go ahead and do this. And then I just want to make sure that the priorities are set to 1 on all of these. So that way it will pull from here first and also send to here first. Perfect. So now that these are set up, we should be able to see like blue ice, and we can see now that we have like an infinite amount of this. Now, I think it still is limited on the transfer limit. So that is something you need to keep in mind. But I think it's fine. I think it should be good. We should now have this automated. And I did go ahead and add more of these in. So now this one is producing. You can see that generation factor 25,000. So this together is 75,000 RF. And then we also are producing 27,000 RF, give or take, from our magmatic dynamo setup. And now with the combination of framed stairs and a little bit of light, we should be able to make this look really good. So I'm going to place these on top. And it's going to illuminate those. And so from up top, this looks pretty darn cool. And so these are producing quite a bit of power, and I have room for more, and we can also directly upgrade these later on. All we have to do is break these blocks, put them in our system, and upgrade them to the next step, which will be nitro whenever we fully have Nether Stars automated. Now with our Archimeat automated and also now Powah automated, oh boy, we are looking pretty darn good for getting into more future endeavors. And I do want to say, if you do enjoy videos like this and you want to continue seeing them in the future, make sure that you click that subscribe button down below and also ring that notification bell so you don't miss a future episode. Also, comment down below. What do you think about this whole automation process? And let me know, what do you think is one of the best ways of generating power in this pack? I would love to hear from you guys down in the comments below. Of course, I made the pack, but it doesn't mean that I 100% know every method of doing so. So anyways, thank you so very much. And speaking of thanking, I do want to thank the supporter of today's episode. And that huge thanks is going to go out to, hey, it's Tay. Thank you so much for your amazing support, by the way, and choose to support me over on the Discord by becoming a Discord premium member and supporting in one of the best ways possible. I thank you all so very much, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. And of course, you know how it goes. As always, thanks for watching. Bye!